This is Bishop Michael Burbidge, and you are listening to the Walk Humbly podcast.
Welcome to the Walk Humbly podcast. I'm Billy Atwell, Chief Communications Officer for the diocese and your co-host. Those listening to this podcast are benefiting from the generosity of those who have given to the Bishop's Lenten Appeal. The BLA supports a lot of ministries in our diocese, but one of them is the Communications Office. And so this podcast and the studio we're recording in is made possible because of the BLA. So thank you to all who have contributed to that in the past, and certainly this year as well. Please make sure you rate this podcast, write a review wherever you're listening. Sign up for our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org. And you can follow Bishop Burbidge on Twitter at Bishop Burbidge, where every day he provides a short gospel reflection for that particular day. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you follow us there. Send your questions to Bishop Burbidge to info@arlingtondiocese.org, or you can call or text us at 703-831-7013. On today's podcast, we're going to cover a number of topics, a few of which include the new encyclical from Pope Francis on the liturgy, the aftermath of the Dobbs case, and as well as the state of abortion in Virginia, and then also some transgender ideology situations that are prominent in the news. I welcome your host, Bishop Burbidge. Bishop, how you doing?
Doing well, Billy, and I hope all of our listeners are doing well and finding some time this summer for renewal and refreshment, and hopefully some quality time with family and friends. So hope everyone's doing well.
Absolutely. And we have some breaking news also from the Holy See regarding the German Synodal Way. Bishop, do you have some details on it?
Yeah, it's a statement from the Holy See that was just released as we were recording this podcast, and I've been asked many times about what is going on in Germany in the Synodal Way, and people seeking clarity, and certainly that is the role of the Holy Father, and he has definitely provided some clarity.
That's right.
If I could just read, it's a very brief statement, but if I could just read a little bit from it, the Holy See statement says, in order to protect the freedom of the people of God and exercise the episcopal ministry, it would appear necessary to clarify the Synodal Way in Germany does not have the power to compel the bishops and the faithful to adopt new ways of governance and new approaches to doctrines and morals, we have been saying that on this podcast a number of times.
That's right.
But we're hearing it clearly today from the Holy See, and I think it's very important to hear that prior to an agreed understanding at the level of the Universal Church, it would not be permissible to initiate new official structures or doctrines in the diocese which would represent a wound to the ecclesial communion and a threat to the unity of the Church, which of course is the role of the Holy Father, to provide clarity, especially when it comes to morals and doctrine, and to preserve the unity of the Church. And the Holy Father recalled in his letter, his own letter to the pilgrim people of God in Germany, the Universal Church lives in and of the particular churches, meaning dioceses, just as the particular churches live and flourish in from the universal church. Listen to this. This is important. If they find themselves separated from the entire ecclesial body, they weaken, rot, and die. That's the Holy Father.
That's clarity.
Very clear. And hence the need always to ensure that the communion with the whole body of the church is alive and effective. So a good day for all of us to pause in the Universal Church, and here in the Diocese of Arlington, and every local church, to pray. To pray that the unity our Lord so much desires within his church will be ours. This statement from the Holy See is a very, very helpful resource and document.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you've gotten a lot of questions about that on this podcast and elsewhere, so hopefully that helps folks.
Right.
And before we get into our main topics, I want to highlight real quick a member of our staff here with the Arlington Catholic Herald in particular. Ann Augherton recently received a national award. It's the St. Francis de Sales Award from the Catholic Media Association, and this is really the highest journalistic award you can receive in the U.S. Catholic Church, and it's well received. Ann has been here for, I think it's coming on 38 years. She jokes that child labor laws were different when she started with the diocese, but she has been just so steadfast and reliable in providing the newspaper on behalf of its publisher, the Bishop of Arlington, and has been just a great contributor to the team, has led many young journalists who have gone on to national roles and been a great mentor for them. And so we certainly want to congratulate. And I know you feel the same.
Yes, I echo those words of congratulations to Ann. What a great honor, and to her colleagues who share in that honor. And also a moment for me to say to the wonderful staff of the Catholic Herald, what I hear so often out in the field is how much our people receive, how pleased they are to receive our diocesan newspaper twice a month.
That's right.
And they are always very complimentary of the content and of the coverage that is provided. So it's a lot of work to produce a newspaper these days, but it's very popular in our diocese, and I think it's because the quality of the paper and the great work of people like Ann and Kevin and all those who work in the Herald.
Yeah, so thank you to them. And a couple of events, one coming up and one that just passed I want to ask you about. We're approaching the World Day of Grandparents and the Elderly. That's this coming Sunday. And you wrote a piece for the Arlington Catholic Herald actually on that topic. It's a fairly new day of celebration that was instituted by Pope Francis. And out of curiosity, why do you think he instituted that?
Well, I think it's the idea that he recognizes our grandparents and elderly of people of wisdom and grace and experience. And, not only, and the Holy Father makes this point clearly, of course, our love for our grandparents and elderly will lead us to take care of them and to be compassionate to them. The Holy Father is also making a strong point that we should also take that extra step and learn from them. They bring so much wisdom, so many insights. And I know when you ask, whenever I visit the elderly, it's important to ask questions. How did they deal with certain situations in their lifetime? Where did they find the strength to be steadfast in marriage and to raise a good family and to weather through the storms that they experience in life? Every generation has them. So it's a day to celebrate our grandparents, both living and deceased, as well as our elderly friends, to take the extra step and maybe visit them, call them frequently, but learn from them, learn from their wisdom. So grandparents and elderly, this will be your day, and I hope it's filled with many blessings for you.
And there's so much to learn from them. My daughter does Irish dance, and there was an event coming up where she could dance at a senior center, and it really didn't work out with the schedule. It was going to be quite a bear, but my wife and I decided she is going to gain so much from this, as well as them. Obviously, there's mutual, but she will learn something from them. And I think Pope Francis really much focused on those who are marginalized. And for some reason, society, the elderly can be marginalized and kind of put off to the side. But there's so much that they can offer, and we should be ready to receive it.
Yeah, very, very much so. And I do take this moment here to thank our priests, extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion, who bring the Lord to the elderly who are, for so many years came to church, but because of physical circumstances cannot. So we bring the church, we bring the Lord to them. So thanks for that beautiful ministry, everyone.
Absolutely. Going to the other end of the spectrum, we had two events recently for the youth, one called Quo Vadis and one that's FIAT. They're very popular retreats. If you would, for those who aren't familiar with them, please describe, who Quo Vadis and FIAT are really intended for, and what you hope people will experience.
Yeah, long-standing tradition in our diocese that continues to remain vibrant. Of course, we had a little bit of a slowdown with the challenges of the last couple of years, but we're back to full force now. So these camps are the Quo Vadis is a camp for young men, sophomores and above, sophomores to seniors in high school, who are just willing to spend a week with the Lord, with other young men their age, to discern God's call. Where's the Lord leading them? Not necessarily to priesthood or consecrated life or married life, just an openness to how do I discern God's call? How do I learn how to pray? How do I learn to be not just a follower but a disciple? And so with the help of our priests who come and spend time with them throughout the week, and our seminarians who are there with them, our vocation director, it's a wonderful, wonderful week for them. And of course, if you have 90 men, which we do at this camp, you're also going to keep them very busy.
Yes.
So there will also be those activities for sporting events, athletic events, group events, and by the end of the night, they are certainly tired. And Father Eisenberg, our vocations director, just mentioned how intentional these men were, especially when it came to wanting time for prayer, wanting time for it to be for the Blessed Sacrament. And it's followed the following week, FIAT, Mary's Yes, for young women, and same ages, and you see the same qualities present there. And during that week, we have women religious from various orders from around the country who come and spend the week with the young ladies, teaching them to pray and talking to them about the various charisms of their community. And again, having fun with them. But like I always say, I celebrate the first Mass of each week. And I always say, you look at 90 high school students, and all the invitations, all the opportunities they have to spend a week in the summer.
Yeah.
How inspiring it is that they choose to give these 5 days to the Lord. I assure them, if you give these days to the Lord, you can be guaranteed that He will fill them with blessings for you, and He will speak the message or messages He wants you to hear. But inspiring to see so many of our happy young friends in Christ spending this time with the Lord and with one another. And I certainly thank their parents at the Mass for supporting and encouraging their sons and daughters to spend a week in this way.
And I know Father Eisenberg emphasizes that it's not a week-long sales pitch to be a priest or a nun.
No.
There are people that come and speak about marriage. I was invited once to do that, and it was a great experience. It is truly about how do you discern your vocation. And in
Right.
today's world, there's very little resource on how to do that.
Yes.
And so this is a great intentional week for that. The other thing I've heard about it is they come away with great friendships. People
they
didn't
do.
know from other
Yeah.
schools or other groups, and all of a sudden they know each other. And with today's day and age, it's very easy for them to connect through social media and stay friends and stay close.
No, that's very right. And as we have spoken about on podcasts, the young people often tell me that sometimes in their circle of friends or in the schools they attend, especially in schools that do not embrace our Catholic faith or traditions, how much they feel alone. And then you go to this camp and say, wait a second. There are a lot of young people my age who share the same beliefs and convictions that I do, and that strengthens us. And it's just wonderful, a long-standing tradition in our diocese, and it's fully vibrant and alive.
And I'm sure they appreciate you being there and being present with them.
They
also
inspire me.
All right, so Bishop, the Holy Father recently issued an apostolic letter on the liturgy, and with all the news going on in the country and the church, this didn't get a thorough review, even by some Catholic media. There's a lot going on, but I'd like to dive into it a little bit. From a high level, what was the apostolic letter intended to do, and what are some of the major components contained within it that you think should stand out to people?
Well, first of all, as many know, we are in a 3-year preparation period for our 50th Jubilee. Year one started in November. We'll go to the end of October here on the Eucharist. Mm-hmm. So maybe the Holy Father knew what the Diocese of Arlington did and gave us this beautiful apostolic letter on the Eucharist and liturgy. But again, as I always encourage our listeners, just don't read the headlines. I would encourage, it's not long, it's a very easy to read document. So I would encourage, it's very easy to find on the internet. The Apostolic Letter is titled in English on the Liturgical Formation of the People of God. So please read it if you can. It's a good summer reading. I would say, Bill, you asked what are the major points of the document? Maybe 3. I would say to rekindle our wonder and beauty of the truth of the Christian celebration, the holy sacrifice of the Mass, rekindling that sense of wonder and awe. It's not something we just do because it's an obligation, but one we approach with a sense of wonder of awe. What is taken? There's a sacrifice at that altar. The Word of God is being proclaimed, and we are receiving the body and blood of Christ. It reminds us of the necessity of authentic liturgical formation. it goes back to unity within the church. So authentic liturgical formation is a nice way of saying the church gives us beautiful liturgies with rubrics and directives, and I always say, just do what the church asks us to do, right? We don't have to add, all kinds of creative things or become, the Holy Father says, don't become, that in any way it requires your creativity or your personality.
You don't have to be inventive.
Yeah, just do what the church asks in all her beauty, and it's such a great celebration. And when there's options, take the options that are there, but if not, just follow what the church does. And for us as a diocese, and this is what we try to do during year one of our preparation, hope our people have a chance to see it on our social media. What is the Mass? We have videos of the teaching Mass. This is what happens at Mass. This is what this means. If you have not had a chance to look at some of those videos, that's authentic liturgical formation, our own priests explaining that to people. And to recognize the importance that it is from this liturgy that we are sent forth, strengthened and renewed, to proclaim the Paschal mystery. Christ is, by his cross and resurrection, has destroyed sin and even death itself. He's truly alive and is with us. It's always the reminder to me that the liturgy belongs to the church. It doesn't belong to an individual. It doesn't belong to a group. It belongs to a church. And I love this one aspect where he says, every aspect of the celebration must be carefully tended to. Space, time, gestures, words, object, vestments, song, and music. And every rubric, what the church tells us to do, must be observed. And so hopefully our pastors do so well in executing this desire of the Holy Father with the help of many people, whether they have their own liturgy committees or people involved in ministry, to do and to celebrate the Mass with reverence, with attention of what we're doing, with joy, and always for the glory of God, mindful of the sacrifice that takes place.
Absolutely. And there are two resources I want to highlight that are adjacent to this topic. The first, Zoe Murray with the Arlington Catholic Herald produced a great piece called "Is the Mass Explained?" basically. But if you go to the Arlington Catholic Herald website, you can find it. It's a lot of the basics of what the Mass is and the quotes from saints and the Holy Father and our own bishop, really infusing what is the truth in the life of this Mass within the church. I think it would be a great teaching resource for your children. If you're looking for like some sort of summer project to keep them intellectually engaged, this would be a great thing. It's not too complicated.
Right.
It's for all audiences, but it's if you go there, you can learn more.
That's
about
a great
that.
reference, Billy.
And it was approved by our Office of Divine Worship, so it's very appropriate. And just pencil in. We'll have more information for you down the road on this, but October 22nd is a Saturday of this year, and we're going to be having a Eucharistic Symposium with special guest will be Archbishop Chaput of Philadelphia. You probably know him, Bishop, I'm guessing.
Know him well.
He's hard to get, so I'm sure that helped.
Archbishop Charles Chaput, former Bishop Emeritus of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, former Archbishop of Denver, great author. I'm sure many of our listeners have read his excellent books. It was a coup to be able to get Archbishop Chaput. He is a man in great demand. In fact, that he is going to be the homilist at the Mass that day, and also give us a talk. And whenever Archbishop Chaput speaks, there is substance.
Yes.
So we're going to be getting news out there about registration and things like that. But if Billy just gave you all the save the date card. I think it's going to be in demand. So
October 22nd, pencil that in. You'll want to bring the family. It's going to be a great day at the Cathedral. Bishop, on our last podcast, it was at work camp, so it's been a little while since that podcast. A lot's happened in the world. The Supreme Court ruled on the Dobbs case, which overturned Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. You issued a really good, thorough statement at the time. I was wondering, it's been a little while since then, so it's starting to settle in for people. What are your thoughts as we reflect out on this time period?
Right. I think a couple things. I said in a homily at a Respect Life Mass just last week that, Our themes for the preparation of our Jubilee celebration are remember, renew, and remember, rejoice, and renew. And remember all these people, some of our listeners included, for 50 years, who have prayed and sacrificed and fasted, attended the March for Life, prayed outside of abortion clinics.
Yeah, worked at pregnancy centers, helped
remember
mothers in
them
need.
with such great affection and gratitude, and rejoice in knowing that sometimes when we pray and we witness, we want to see immediate results, but it's always in God's time. But to rejoice that God continues to work miracles in our lives, and to renew our commitment. See, the work is just beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, the work is beginning. With Dobbs, there's no longer a federal constitutional right to abortion. The power, as it should have been originally, is restored to the people and their elected representatives to protect the dignity and rights of the human person from the moment of conception by enacting life-affirming laws in their states.
Absolutely.
And in Congress. And so we have a lot of work to do. Like everything we've been doing, we got to continue to do with greater intensity, just more so on the local level. Because while some states have already implemented total or near total limits on abortion, more than half the states, and sadly, including Virginia, have few or no limits on Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, on abortion.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable.
I mean, just to be specific here, by that I mean in the first trimester, no limits. Even certain non-physicians may perform the abortion. In Virginia, in the second and third trimester, no limits, except that the abortion must be performed in a hospital by a physician. Third trimester, the abortion must be performed in a hospital by a physician, and the physician and two consulting physicians must certify that the continuation of the pregnancy is likely to result in the death of the woman or impair, and this is where it gets, can be stretched to mean many things, the mental or physical health of the woman. So pray, fast, offer sacrifice for the conversion of mind and hearts. Advocate for pro-life laws by contacting your legislators, and support those initiatives that ensure compassionate care and support for preborn children, their mothers, and families. That's, Billy, where I think we have to do a better job.
Yeah.
As a church and really as a diocese. Mm-hmm. I think most people know our position on abortion. It's a horrific act that we totally oppose. It's horrific, right? And so we're very clear, and I think everyone knows the Catholic Church's position on that. But I think what we need to do a better job in doing is showing that in addition to that, we are so pro-life and what we do for mothers and families. And I want our people to be able to talk to their friends and colleagues that we continue to accompany mothers and fathers experiencing crisis pregnancies, to provide adoption support, which the Catholic Church has been known for years.
That's right.
Providing homes for people who choose life for their children, homes for them if they're unable to do so themselves, to offer medical and emergency financial assistance to families in need, and to extend care and healing for those who have chosen abortion. We are with the mother. We are with the child every step of the way, especially through our parishes, our diocesan initiatives, and Catholic charities. We are pro-life, and I think we have to do a better job, not bragging, not looking for a pat on the back, but letting people know that. Bishop Nestow and I have had a chance to meet with significant leaders in the Commonwealth, and we wanted them to know, these are the services our Catholic Church provides. They were a bit surprised. They weren't aware of all that. They know what we're against, but they need to know what we're for.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's something that's totally selfless on the part of the donors to the church and the volunteers. They do this for others. They're not getting anything personally out of this. Right. It's totally in service to others. So I hope those elected officials receive that.
Even our own diocese, Home for Single Moms, and Gabriel projects where we provide basic necessities of life. Project Rachel, helping those healing from abortion. So
the Mother Mercy clinics with ultrasound machines that
Right.
the Knights of Columbus helped us secure.
Exactly.
I mean, there's amazing partnership in the church to
It
really
goes
support
on and
women.
on, right?
Absolutely. And one thing I would encourage people, and you've heard me say this before, so I'm going to sound like a broken record here. vacatholic.org. Jeff Caruso is the executive director of the Virginia Catholic Conference, and he represents our two bishops here in Virginia on the front lines in the legislature. And those battles are going to only increase in coming years. Bishop, when you had mentioned, like in the second trimester, the change is that the abortion has to be performed in a hospital. That was considered a pro-life victory.
Right.
And that's how hard it has been in Virginia. But if you want to join those efforts, please go to vacatholic.org, sign up for the e-newsletter. Jeff is great about only sending it to you when it really matters. There's great resources there about diocesan-affiliated pregnancy centers and resources. There's a lot there, vacatholic.org. Bishop, the issue of gender ideology is really heightened in the news right now. A district court judge in Tennessee temporarily barred the Biden administration from enforcing a policy that would require all states to allow men to compete in women's sports if the man believes that he is a woman. Also, the University of Pennsylvania nominated Leah Thomas, a biological male, to be NCAA Woman of the Year. The runner-up to Thomas in the NCAA championships said, quote, "This is yet another slap in the face to women. First, a female national title, and now nominated for the Pinnacle Award in collegiate athletics. The NCAA has made this award worthless," end quote. Transgenderism was not much of a public issue just a short while ago, and now it seems to be dominating news cycles. You've offered a wonderful teaching document on this. What do you make of this kind of news and the way it's just increased over time?
Right, yeah. You're right in saying that the issue certainly has progressed quickly, more quickly than most people could keep up with. Certainly, I received a great deal of response from my letter on this issue.
Yeah.
Most of which was very positive, encouraging, some of which was not, but always reinforcing that this document was issued in love to speak the truth.
That's
and
right.
That we will never, ever tolerate the respect that every person is owed as a child of God, and no bullying, no harassment, anything like that. But we speak the truth in love. And it progressed quickly. But I think what's happening is the more people think about the logical consequences of treating men and women the same, as if there is no biological difference, it's less appealing to the average person. Whenever people respond to important issues emotionally, rather than with logic and a foundation in natural law, you can expect outcomes that are unsustainable and contradictory. You can support women and advance causes that are good for women while also allowing biological males. You cannot support women and advance causes that are good for women while also allowing biological males to compete against women in women's sports. You cannot truly value women while giving the title Woman of the Year to a man. Even if they support, it defies logic. And I think most people appreciate the issue, even if they support transgenderism overall. I was encouraged to hear a judge halted the Biden administration policy that would force states to allow men and women to enter restrooms, whichever gender sport they wish. So I think, Billy, we outlined clearly the logic, the natural law that is involved, must be involved, cannot be denied, in talking about these issues, while also talking about compassion and care and respect that we owe to every person. But if logic and natural law are ignored, then the outcomes are just going to keep going down a certain path where it really becomes this is not sustainable. This is not what we meant it to be. And I think the average person is beginning to see that.
Yeah. I think also people are afraid to offer their voice because they'll be, like you said, bullied or mistreated in some way. But I think people are realizing not speaking up creates a lot more harm than what might otherwise occur. And so they're wanting to speak up. And what I think is so great about the teaching document, the letter that you wrote on gender ideology, is that it lays out in layman's terms exactly what most of us think, but don't have the words to convey. And you provided a very succinct format, and you relied on really good experts and everything from biology, law, philosophy to help you in compiling that to make sure it was really precise. And we get in communications office emails from other dioceses from around the world, people saying, can we translate this into Dutch? Can we translate this into other languages? Because it really hadn't been written in such a concise way. And so I encourage people to look this up. If you're feeling like you need to represent, your faith on this issue, and I hope you do, go to arlingtondiocese.org and search, in the search bar, put gender ideology. It's the first search result.
Yeah, I know this issue impacts so many families within our diocese, and thoughts and prayers are with them as they navigate through these issues with loved ones. We never stop loving one another, but I know there are many challenges and difficulties that are involved with this issue. So again, thoughts and prayers with all families dealing with this.
So we have some questions from the faithful. The first says, since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, there have been many companies declaring their support for abortion and even going so far as saying they're going to assist their employees in getting abortions. What is your guidance to Catholics in the diocese regarding whether or not they should be giving their patronage to these companies? Is boycotting companies a personal choice or a moral imperative for Catholics? That comes from Jessica at St. Leo the Great in Fairfax.
No, that's a great question from Jessica. I don't know how effective boycotts are in this day and age, but this is something people should discern for themselves. I know some parents have decided to stop supporting, for example, Disney for their aggressive position regarding gender ideology in children's programming. But if you feel like God is calling you to start supporting a certain company, I would encourage you to have the strength of heart to carry through with that. Companies that reflect the values and morals. But we have to be vigilant. I think companies that are just so blatant, so outright, and very clear in their position and violate what we do. Well, we have to discern, is that something that we should in any way lend our support? And also, to make, again, we're always praying that hearts and alls are being transformed. But I certainly, if you're, for example, where you spend your money, or if you make investments in stocks and all, hopefully being vigilant. We have a very strict policy here in our diocese. Where if we make investments, that there is a thorough project of really understanding who this company is, and where their support is lent. And if it violates, the core principles and beliefs we have, then even if it's going to be a great moneymaker, that's not something we can do or would ever do.
And I know that's reviewed on an annual basis. Some of these mutual funds can change, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute.
With the eyes of, not just within here, the Chancery, but with some professional eyes that help us.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, Kyle from Our Lady of Hope says, I'm a recent college grad who has been tapped for the job of 8th grade CCD teacher. I love how he said that. I've been tapped for the job. It's like a lot of people start out in religious ed because someone says, I think you should do this. My mother is currently a 2nd grade teacher and talks of her kids admitting that they and their families don't typically go to Mass. I was wondering how I should approach this upcoming CCD year with the fact that more and more are disaffiliated or lapsed in their faith. Do you have any suggestions to make for my inaugural year of teaching, most impactful for the Confirmande?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle, for and many others throughout our diocese who are so generous in offering their services to teach in our religious education programs. We can't do it without you, so thank you. But you have acknowledged challenges that we know are real, both in our religious education formation programs, even in our own schools, our Catholic schools. And it is, disheartening, concerning sometimes to learn that the young people I confirm on a Wednesday are not even at church that following Sunday. So we do have to pause here, and this is a big part of our strategic plan under evangelization and formation. We cannot keep doing things exactly the same way we've been doing them. And so I think what is at the heart of it is how can our religious education programs, our formation programs, the religion theology we teach in our schools, certainly it has to include conveying, handing on knowledge of our Catholic faith. But obviously it's clear if we're not touching hearts and not making disciples and helping our students to grow in a relationship with Christ, then we're going to see these kind of results of people not going to church on a regular basis. So it is my hope, and as a diocese, in all of our listening sessions, what Kyle asked has been asked many times, what can we do differently? And we have a working group on this right now, and I am really impressed with some of the recommendations coming my way of how we can reinvigorate our education, teaching, and formation, both of adults and of our young people. So, but Kyle comes back to, yes, teach the faith, but make sure that you're also making disciples. It's all about the relationship with Christ, and if they don't have that, leaving our schools, then they're not going to continue their practice of the faith.
Very good. All right, Charles at St. James, this question you may have addressed a little bit before, but he says, now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned, is there a strategy on the part of the U.S. bishops as the pro-life effort resumes?
Yeah, of course. We're going to continue to work with the Virginia Catholic Conference and providing some opportunities, some resources to do so. We will do the same thing in our diocese of ways that we can make our faith public in the arena, especially as we deal with our elected officials. Also offer witness and opportunities to pray. We've always done that, as I said in the beginning, but now we got to do so more intensity and on this local level.
I'm sure we'll create opportunity at the national level also.
It's the same thing I forgot to say with the liturgical document that we talked about in the beginning. Again, we will be having workshops on the Holy Father's document and resources available, and because we want to assist our people in these areas.
That's wonderful. All right, last question. What can be done to harden the target of our schools and homeschool co-ops throughout the diocese to keep children and teachers safe from harm? This is from Christine, a parishioner here.
Well, Christine, that's a great question. It's on the hearts, I'm sure, of all of our parents, and I know it's on my heart, and it's on the hearts of our school administrators and teachers, especially so sadly in light of the horrific events we have recently seen. And please know that our diocese, as dioceses throughout the country, take this very, very, very seriously. We have a risk management office. We have a great staff, including former law enforcement officers, who help us to create procedures, policies, and protocols that assist parishes and schools in the creation of security and ministry programs. We have a new video being worked on now that will be available to our schools and families of what you do in certain situations like the one that we have recently saw. And we audit our parishes and schools in a helpful way. We go out and we take a look at the security system of the things they have in place to protect the church, protect the schools and students. We offer recommendations where recommendations are needed, and then we follow up to make sure that those things are in place, which of course we will do most definitely before the beginning of this school new year. The most important thing is a close relationship with the local law enforcement.
That's
we
right.
have found as a diocese, wherever we have concern and we've expressed those concerns, they are there to help us. And so that close relationship pastor has with the and principals have with the local law enforcement is very important. We consider everything from the best use of cameras, single access doors, ensuring exterior doors are locked behind people, use of landscaping to make entry through windows more difficult, alarms, motion sensors, everything you would do for your own home. And for the protection of your own family, we must do for our own diocese and family. Each year, especially as things have been heightened in our country, we refresh what we do based on best practices, new research, and best technology. So as much as this is on the heart of every parent, of every school administrator, it's certainly on my heart and on the colleagues here, and we're trying to support parishes in every way possible.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. We went through a lot here. Any final thoughts, any final messages for listeners, and then if you would send us off with your blessing.
And just a request to everyone that there is still some remaining time left in these summer months. I know things don't slow down as once they used to in the summer, but if you can make that time to get some refreshment and renewal before we begin the rigors that begin in the fall with the startup of school and all the other responsibilities that come our way. I hope it is a time of rest, refreshment, and renewal, that you all have that time, quality time with your families. There are a lot of exciting things going on in our diocese, such a vibrant diocese. Many know that I ordained 8 new priests in June. This coming Saturday, I get to ordain a Redemptorist priest who is the brother of 2 of our priests, Father Christopher and Father Stephen Vaccaro. His brother will be ordained a priest for the Redemptorists at the National Basilica Shrine in Washington on Saturday, and I have the great joy of ordaining him. And then next month to ordain a Missionhurst priest who is currently residing in our diocese. So there's such a great joy as a bishop to ordain priests for service to the Lord and His church. So please pray for all of our priests, our newly ordained, our priests who have been transferred and just recently began new assignments. And know, dear friends, my prayers are with all of you, that we stay strong in our faith and joyful in our hope, and that each and every day we walk humbly with our God.
Thank you for listening to the Walk Humbly podcast. Make sure you check out more episodes on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can follow me on Twitter at Bishop Burbidge, where I offer gospel reflections each morning and share photos and updates of what is going on in the Diocese of Arlington. Stay up to date with news, event information, and inspirational content by subscribing to our e-newsletter at arlingtondiocese.org.